I'm Britton LaRue, and this is Moon to Moon. Moon to Moon is a space to consider, celebrate, and share the ways we come home to ourselves, anchor through change, and uncover our power. 1 month, one phase, one loving step at a time. Welcome to Moon to Moon. It's Britton. I just recorded the Saturn transmission for celebrating Saturn. It's so good. I can't wait to listen to it again. It's going to be one of those that if I ever want to come back to myself, I can listen to it and remember in my body. I hope you resonate with it if it's meant for you. Let me know. It's pretty potent stuff, Saturn. I did want to name here at the front some things about the structure of year one that is coming into form in honor of Saturn here on Saturn's Day. Everyone who has signed up for Emergence Astrology year one has been going in fairly blind. Thank you for your trust. You know me and you know my work, and you know I'm going to give my whole self, and that means so much to me. It's a really great feeling. What you have known is that the first 9 months are a hermitage, and that there'll be no live meetings, no Q&As, that you are going into a hermitage with yourself and with your relationship to this language and the planets and the signs. And you are cultivating your mysticism and finding out how much more you are. And then there will be 3 months of a salon-style gatherings. Thinking of this as the 4th trimester, with the hermitage being a pregnancy, you getting pregnant with yourself. And that the 4th trimester is going to be a time of weekly meetups with a cohort capped at 12 to keep it intimate, and so that you really feel a belonging to the group and to the space, and that you feel heard and witnessed, and you feel a deep connectivity with those who have also landed into your cohort time. So what's coming through as the structure is, to me, it sort of feels like the spiral of like a shell is the container. I love it because it's sort of like Cancer Capricorn in my mind's eye. But this spiralic turn of the shell structure, which we see in or through nature, this kind of spiraling design. The way I see it is that each month you're building a home for yourself, a cave space within, for astrology to live inside of you in weird and funky ways that will come through your own channel that I can't wait to find out about after 9 months. And it's a weaving. It's a weaving to like hold it together within the spiral. It's a weaving. And the weaving is created through daily devotions that I'm going to be telling you all about on the other side of the portal. Weekly rituals, ceremonial ritual space, and then a sense of a monthly theme and a monthly set of skills and a monthly set of transmissions for supporting you even deeper. And so, and then we'll also be thinking in terms of quarters as well as the whole year to go from a micro to more of a macro, with the idea that these will continue if you want to do year 2 and if you want to do year 3, which will be a deepening into this, especially deepening into community on the other side of year 1. I'm not going to create it until year 1 is done. And then these years will be running consecutively, like different groups at a time, and it's going to build a whole world is how I see it, with different groups starting at different times and different individuals coming in as teaching assistant support and community space holders with me, and ultimately is going to be creating like a very rhizometric community space for magical mystics and creatives, human beings who want to be participating rigorously, deeply, erotically in the world, engaging with the other side of the scene, which includes for me the cosmic guides that talk to us through the planets. And so you'll be cultivating your own thing with that. I'll be guiding you, and then it will start to root and take off. And that's when things will start to, for you, get like really cool, because you will be, it's going to be a trust practice. Like the first big thing you have to trust is me, right? Like so much of what you're paying me for is related to how much you trust me. Because you trust me so much, you're going to be going way more expansive than you would if you weren't coming in the container, just because that's just how these things can work. Is the container is going to hold you. I'm not holding you. Your trust in me is a big part of it, but it's really you're trusting what I'm making. The container is going to hold you and help you trust to expand your edges like way big. And what comes through with that expansiveness and the openness of your channels is going to be something that I couldn't begin to predict. It's very, very cool. And this like incredible expansiveness needs to have Saturnian care through clear structure. And I bring this to all my containers. I'm very Jupiterian and very Saturnian, you know? So much expansiveness happens when the container is like clear and the container has a rhythm of its own and has like clear containers within containers for you to lean into as you trust in getting open and going big and seeing what comes through for you. So, it feels sort of like, duh, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, like, duh. No big deal, just time. Just time, which happens to be organized around the 7 planets, right? I mean, and the 12 signs. Duh. The structure has already been created. Brittany didn't have to come up with this. So I'm going to be probably sharing more about the structure in the next 5-6 days before we begin with the solstice. I'm tending to this celebration in moon to moon. I'm creating for everyone coming in. And as I can, I will share more about what I'm seeing for those of you that are like, I want to come in, but I need to see more about what exactly is going to be happening. But I'm not going to be able to tell you that because it's emergent. So everyone who does this the first round is big trust leap with me, Future iterations are going to have way more in the course page, and I'm going to be able to tell you stuff. But that just presumes I'm going to do it the same, because as I learn with my other containers, I'm always wanting to listen to how it wants to mutate according to the new year that we're in, because we are in a yearly spiral. 2025 is going to feel different, and things will need to shift a little bit. But for sure, those joining this first round are getting it in its most emergent, raw style. So I feel super grateful, because polish is not where the force is. The force is at the cauldron. That's what's lit in me right now. And that is what stays even as a container shifts over time, is that originary cauldron of creativity that is, so fun to be inside, even if it's kind of scary, because I don't know always what it's gonna look like. All right, I'm gonna quit now so that I can hand you off to celebrating Saturn. Enjoy. So we come to Saturn here in the middle. It's kind of interesting, because we often think about Saturn as the final planet of the seven, the end, the limit of what we can see. And the final test, the final teacher. But in this series, Saturn holds the middle. Many of y'all know how much I love Saturn. I've been told many, many, many times that the way I speak about Saturn helps you to reprogram and repair and heal your relationship to Saturn. And that just is very moving to me. I get real weepy with Saturn, because I think it comes back to something that came through in a transmission in my first year of teaching astrology, which is Saturn will save your life. Saturn gets a really bad rap in our culture, and also in astrology. In this side of astrology has a this side and a that side. In this side astrology, I really don't care much for a lot of the ways in which Saturn's name is invoked and spoken. I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding that it's not Saturn. It's the shame that we're carrying that makes it so difficult to have a relationship to Saturn. It's not Saturn. It's the shame. So we can blame Saturn. And that might be what's possible for us at certain times in our lives when unshaming is like not possible. Like there's no opening for it. And so Saturn gets the blame. And unshaming and shame are really important with Saturn because it's very difficult to let Saturn's love infuse our lives if we're refusing to look at where we're holding shame. It's just going to be true. And, Saturn cycles in our lives bring us into these times when we are really invited to look at this material in our lives, not to taunt us and tell us that we're failures, but to invite us to see where we can love ourselves and unshame with Saturn. Saturn is like the coach to help you. But this is all confused and distorted in the way so much of this material is taught and understood. This is what I found to be true. And, the first really huge time in our life when Saturn comes in and is like, hey, how you doing? Is the first Saturn return, which is late 20s, as many of y'all know. And that window of time really brings us down into a space in our lives when we encounter who we are, who we think we are, how we think that we are living according to who we think we are. How do we feel about ourselves? How do we feel about our choices? How do we feel about the way we're living our lives? Like, what comes up with all of that? There's a lot of existential invitation there because Saturn's very much about existence, the fact of it. And it is not surprising to me that less than 10% of Moon to Moon listeners, less than 10% of my Instagram community has not gotten to their Saturn return yet. Because I hold a Saturnian space. I hold space for all the planets. Of course, I'm extremely Jupiterian, like ridiculously Jupiterian, but they work together. They're a team, and I'm very Saturnian in many ways. And my medicine, if we want to call it that, like it almost like can't land unless there's been some encounter with Saturn. And so I think that that's a huge part of why I feel like I get more popular with folks like the more they're kind of coming into these bigger life shift periods that the Saturn return initiates. Just an interesting place where data reveals things. Well, let me back up. I'm a very Saturnian baby. I was born on Saturn's day at Saturn's hour. And I have a Capricorn moon, so my moon is ruled by Saturn. And I've just always been very connected to the parts of myself that are going to go all the way with things. There has always been there was like a stiffness to me when I was younger. Which I used to be really embarrassed about. Like I didn't want to be both literally stiff. Like I was one of those people where in PE they'd have you do the sit and reach and they'd be like, you can go now. And I'm like, no, this is the best I can do. Not flexible. But also just stiff socially, like just sort of like, what is the point of this gathering? Like, why are we all meeting here? People are just relaxing and like shooting the shit. And I just felt like I didn't understand like what to do with myself, because it's like, if I don't understand what this is for, I don't know how to be here. And that is a very Saturnian part of me that is connected to like purpose and like the point and like, how is this facilitating another thing that I care about and that matters to me? So like, oh, it's a study group? Cool. Now I know why we're here, and I'm going to make lots of jokes and we're going to have a really good time, and we're going to spend half of it laughing, but I at least know like why we've gathered. And okay, now that that's clear, I can have fun. Just like really, really attracted to that. Like I really want to talk about Saturnian kink and like Saturn kink here, because we often think about Saturn as like dry and lifeless, but Saturn is like the devil, it's like big dick. And it's the kink of Saturn is like creating the structure around the thing that we're doing so that we can then enjoy ourselves, because we understand like where the rules are. Like, okay, now that this is clear, we can just have a blast. And everyone's free now because the like boundaries have been set. Everyone understands them. We're clear. Now we can go and have a really good time. And that is a big part of Saturn kink. It's just like the pleasure of understanding where the limit is, the pleasure of understanding where the boundary is, so that you're not confused and you're like, is this allowed? Is this okay? How am I going to know where the limit is if the limit isn't stated, This is like this thing I learned in some French parenting book, that like French parents, they talk about le cadre, like the box. And like the parent's job is to be extremely clear with children about le cadre. And then they can invite the child to just feel completely free. Like you've been told where the boundaries are, and now like go have fun. You don't need to come back to me checking in to make sure that you're doing a good job. You don't need to come back to me and clarify like what's allowed, because I've already explained le cadre. So y'all can just go have a great time. And that just felt really like loving. It's like so loving to be direct with people about where your boundaries are. Like when someone's asking you of something, being able to say like, this is where my boundaries are around that. Otherwise, like, go for it. Yes, I'm totally into it. And then people really know that they can trust you because you've been clear about what your limits are. Yeah. So when I found astrology at the same time that I was learning about intuition and learning about ritual, I talked some about this in the Venus episode quite right before this. Like ritual just was very exciting for me. This is what I liked about being an Episcopalian, is it was like, now we're gonna sing, and now we're gonna chant, and now we're gonna get on the prayer, like the kneeling things. You know, I didn't grow up Episcopalian. I found it in young adulthood. I just loved just like the rules, you know, like the structure is just so clear that I could go in there and like not even listen to what we were saying. I just wanted to do the chant. I just wanted to like kneel and then stand again. And now I'm singing and now I'm praying, you know, and it's just like, ooh, moving through the motions of the ritual is just like, I feel myself home again. Every Sunday, just like this, again and again, I come home. That is like some Saturn kink. I do this every day at this time. Like I do this once a week, this happens. Then we do this, then we move into this, then we move that. That just feels so good. I'm back, I'm home. Got it. It's all been recontained. Okay. And like the vastness and the bigness of us that can get all mixed up with other people and mixed up with all kinds of energy that's not ours through the ritual, we come home, because the ritual has its rules. It has its structure. It has its boundaries. It has its limits. And then you get to sing and you get to pray and you get to feel expansive within the limits. And the whole of it is like a homecoming process of coming back to yourself. That is some yum Saturn kink. Like, give me that once a week ritual. And so when I was learning astrology, what I really wanted to do from the beginning was like, bring my astrological practice into rituals and ceremony the way I was learning about that with the lunar practice and with like goddess frequency practices, and create consistency and like pathways in, pathways out to ritual with my relationship with the planets and how I wanted to convene with them and to conspire with them, to listen with them, to sing with them, to chant with them, to ritualize this process. So much so that the ritual itself begins to have its own moves and its own life, so that I just fall into the structure of it and I'm there. I'm completely there. The chanting is like coming out of my mouth before my brain says, now we're going to chant, because my body is like falling into place with the structure of the ritual. So that's some real Saturn kink right there. Is like, you like ritual? That's Saturn. That's Saturn helping you like fall into the structure that you know on the many levels of your being. And that process has so much power and potency around it. It's like bringing it all back in. And then you can beam out big Jupiter from that ritual space. That is some mystical shit. Saturn is extremely mystical, even though we think about Saturn in terms of the material and the concrete and the materialization and the manifestation onto the earthly plane. This is very true about Saturn. But it's also these pathways in and pathways out, and like repeated things that we do when we are attending to our spiritual, mystical, magical, animated life and reconnecting with the spirit realm and what's on the other side, what's on the that side. The that side I have found to be true resonates with the parts of us that appreciate ritual. And that is like how we create the doorway. We create the doorway by doing all of these motions that carry meaning through the repetition, okay? Because repetition is deeply Saturnian. Repetition is Saturnian. So it's like that Saturn kink is like, give me that rhythmic repetition. And that's why we associate Saturn with practices. We call it discipline. If that's a scary word, call it devotion. That is Saturnian kink. It's the rhythmic repetition to the thing that grows in its power because you keep coming back, you keep coming back, you keep coming back. It's the coming back to it that forges a kind of, I'm seeing the word wealth, like it creates a home, like a home full of the force of you because you've like hemmed it in, you've like brought it in through these repeated ritual acts. The repetition does the magic with you. And so it's a magic that takes time. Saturn is our Lord of time. Now, Saturn's version of time is not the only time techne that I talk about. Time techne, technology. I like to talk about each of the planets and help you understand how to relate to time with each one. This is a big thing we'll be doing in Emergence Astrology year 1 and 2 for that matter. And so Saturn's just like, give me that long-term commitment, kink. Give me that no shortcuts here. Don't bring me that saving time rhetoric. No, I'm here for the long term, baby. I love you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just right here with you in the ritual. I'll show up to it because I love you. This is why wisdom takes time. It's ageism. This rhetoric that's like rejecting that which takes time. Give me that crone wisdom. Give me that crone wisdom. Not trying to cut any corners, no. This is what I really, really care about. This is what matters. And Saturn's just like, yes, you got it, you got it. Come on, let's do it. Saturn is not trying to be a bummer. It's shame that has us thinking that we can't do this, that we can't be responsible to it, that we bring this expectation of difficulty, that we bring this expectation that it won't be any fun, that we'll probably fail. Like that, this is where unshaming is so important, to bring compassion to that and curiosity to that and love to this. Saturn is not trying to shame you. Saturn's trying to bring you in. Saturn says, I'll hold the unshaming with you. One of the things that came through with Saturn and Pisces is this phrasing, we cannot hold the infinite in our hands without limiting it somehow. And the Saturnian is what brings us to the planet Earth to be alive. The limitlessness of our infinite divinity is limited by our beingness here. We are going to die. Everything around us has a limit. All of this is going to go. And that's also the gift. What do you want to do while you're here? Let me help you. Come sit with me. Tell me about the dreams you have. It's this like getting serious energy because, you know, we're like, Saturn, bummer, like so serious. Like, yeah, it is fucking serious. It is serious being here. It is serious. That doesn't mean we're not having fun. But be dead serious about having fun. Be dead serious about being playful. Be dead serious about being magical. Be dead serious about loving the ones you love. Be dead serious about loving yourself. Like that's the vibe of the seriousness that I love so much in Saturn. Because it gives us that force. It comes down to the bone. This is bone wisdom with Saturn. Saturn is inviting us into the reprogramming process to see like that the stories we may have about deadlines and practice and structure, that we're like bad at them or that we can't do them, that these are like distorted stories from the shame, from the feeling like we failed before, so why wouldn't we fuck it up again? And Saturn's right here to help you with that. It's just coming back to Saturn. And what we benefit so much from with Saturn is being willing to set up some of these structures, to be in devotion, to create rituals of devotion, so that everything in our life starts to like rotate around the being a ritual person. And the sense of self-trust begins to land as a frequency. That means not giving a shit so much about shit you shouldn't care about. Like, Saturn shifts are often like, it can be rough to see where we have big attachments to things that like are rooted in stories that aren't really about who we are. They're more about the trauma. Or like that we were just in this whole thing, just trying to get our parent to notice us or something. Like we realize like, whoa, where we have seated our authority. CEDED, seated our authority, and made all these goals and identities that really do not throb inside of us. And this is a gift. These encounters with Saturn, this is a gift, because it's like, that path was never for you. I'm trying to help. You'll know it's your path when it's what you wholly must do. With your whole heart and your whole body. That's when you know. And then the holy must do, the holy turning towards. We can double holy, WH and H alone there, begins to flow. This is my life. I am one with it. That is some Saturn gift. That is some Saturn gift. I love Saturn so much. Saturn helps us be so brave to be here. Saturn helps us be so brave to be here. With this gift. With this gift of being limitless spirits and bodies having a human experience, knowing that it is going to end, and there's so much we don't know, and there are no guarantees, and the only sure thing there is change. So then what? Saturn is the so then what? And there's so much for us there. Thank you. Thank you, Saturn. I feel complete.